Alright, Jay, this is for you. Today's mission, let's go look at it. Today's mission is we're going to Minmus, and I'm dropping off some goo, observatory, and some ion collector, and I need to collect the science and get it back. That means I need a scientist to be able to put this stuff down, and probably an engineer to help speed the process up and stuff like that, which means I have to bring Lim back alive too. Let's go see where that takes us. Tracking center, tracking station. Okay, so good old Kerbin, if I zoom out, Minmus is here. So we're going to be launching from Kerbal Space Center, get our ship to orbit, then we'll do another burn to Minmus, do a deceleration burn to get into orbit of Minmus. Just double click on this real quick and zoom in. And then we need to land somewhere on Minmus, take our readings, and get back home. The ship that I built probably could make it all the way back, but I've got a station here, a refueling station, so I figured why not, I'll dock with it and show you how docking works. Not that I'm amazing at it, but I should be able to get it there. So that's the plan. Okay, back here, let me get into the vehicle assembly building, talk a little bit about the ship. I'm not going to go through everything because you won't have all these parts when you start, but I want to at least break down my thought process behind why I built it the way I did. Wait for it. Okay, so here's my science deploy launcher. Let me break some of this off to make it a little easier to see. Okay, so essentially we got three major components, except for that. Let me do it right here. Okay, so this top part is getting the Kerbals home. It's got battery, control, brain, pod for them, antenna, parachutes, a docking port so I can stick to the station, solar panels, blah blah blah. This part down here decouples once we get back to Kerbin, and it's just our bus and lander. It gets us to Minmus, lands us, gets us back, and then we get rid of it. This thing holds some stuff. This is the science I need to deploy. So altogether, that's my lander. This chunk over here, this is my launch stage. Pretty large launch stage, but I'm shipping the lander up empty to keep the top of this really lightweight, and then I'm going to take the excess fuel that we have here, dump it into that to keep the flight more balanced, and also to save refuel in Kerbin orbit. And then the center section here, I will land. So ideally we'll push all of this to orbit, do a refuel, decouple, we'll send this guy on his way, we'll land this on Kerbin, and then we'll jump back over to the ship and try and hopefully finish the Minmus mission and get home alive. That's our goal. So, let me save this thing. Let me make sure. Actually, let's talk about one other thing. There's some custom things you can do, like actions. I don't know if these unlock right away, but you can group things like your antenna or your solar panels, and you just do that by picking one of these, selecting a thing, and then there'll be options. So if I like pick a light, you'll see there's options, and then I can add it or remove it from this list, and that's kind of handy. You also need to deal with your crew. I am happy with that. 2 engineers and a scientist. I've got 3 seats. Might as well send them. It'll level them up every time they do a mission. I think that's enough for now. Okay, I'm ready to launch this thing. So let's make sure we get her on the pad. Okay, so here we are on the launch pad. I typically like to just, pick a decent angle. We're gonna turn on our SAS. That's going to help our stability control. This you have to do by flight ball when you first start learning. I'm also going to turn on the monopropellant just because I'm not sure how great this thing is going to handle, and that should help keep us stable. Before I kick this off, I want to engage my thrusts so it's all the way on, so I get a nice kickoff. I think that's all the things. And then we're going to try and accelerate in a controlled fashion. So once I get to about 100 meters per second, I'm going to bring this thrust way down so that we don't over accelerate. Otherwise, when we're in the denser air, the ship gets really hot. We want to save some of that acceleration for later. The other thing is I want to make sure that my solid fuel rockets burn out before my liquids, just to kind of help the timing of everything. So thrust is on, everything's good. Let's do this in 3, 2, 1. Launching. I'm gonna tap just a little bit over to the right just to kind of keep it from going backwards on its angle. Now I'm gonna start bringing the throttle way back. I don't want to decelerate. I want to make sure I'm still gaining. That's actually a pretty good angle. I'm just gonna maintain this for now. I'll just ride this vector up. And again, if we start getting too fast here, we want to back it down. We don't want to be above 200 meters per second until we get into the thinner air. And then once we get up here, we can start opening it up. But for right now, we want this to kind of stay mellow. Still got a little time on our solid fuel. Gaining altitude nicely. So far, this thing's doing really well. I'm just about to kick these off, so I'm going to accelerate a little more. Kick them off. The acceleration will help offset the lack of thrust that those were given. We want to make sure we're still at a nice acceleration here. Now at a 10,000 mark, we want to start kicking over nice and steady. Let's bring it over to about 90. Nice arc, and watch our prograde start heading that way. Just hold it right here for a second. Meanwhile, let's watch this too, because we're going to have another stage of rockets we got to kick off. Just pick a nice angle for that. Throttle up a little bit. And kick them. Alright, off we go. So now what we want to do is watch our space map. Alright, I gotta bring this up. I'll probably bring it up to about 100,000 since I've got plenty of fuel on board this thing. We're just gonna ride it up. Watching, make sure we're not getting too hot. We're in thin air now, so we actually are doing really good speed-wise. We're not getting heat, so I think launch is on point. Once this gets above this, 50-ish mark, as long as your ship's over 35 or 40, a lot of times what I'll do if the ship's got enough push is push all the way to prograde. And this is going to round our ellipse out quite a bit and help with our second burn. It'll make our second burn a little easier. Just have to make sure that we're in the upper atmosphere, otherwise you'll start losing altitude. Once this gets to about 100, I'll kill it. There we go, good enough. Alright, so next thing is I need to burn more or less right here at the apoapsis. I'm going to add maneuver, but when you do this manually, basically you're just burning prograde for everything you've got. I'm going to pull and keep our apoapsis as aligned as I can. And we're going to pull the periaps out to about 100 as well. And be gentle so it doesn't go crazy and flip on you. I usually burn the periaps, or in the maneuver, I set it a little bit shy of what I'm aiming for, because it seems like it's easier to overshoot it than not. So somewhere in this zone is good, but you can go and try and be as crazy accurate with it as you want to. Alright, so right about there, I'm going to aim maneuver. We're a minute out from our maneuver. It's only an 18-second burn. That's because I did that flattening move, which means I need about 9 seconds plus, and 9 seconds minus to try and average the burn. And so I'll fast forward at this point. Time, bring it down. Alright, let's go into normal time and let our maneuver node sync up. And at this point, the burn's pretty short, so instead of watching this mode, I'm definitely going to watch here. And burn here. And now. Locked on our maneuver node. Keep this thing. Eyes, we want to try and stop it as perfect as we can. Okay, so pretty good. I'm going to give it a tiny bit more gas just to push it a little bit further out. And not perfect circle, but pretty damn close. We have achieved full orbit. We could leave this thing here forever if we want to, as long as it's not in any collision paths with anything else. Ta-da! Okay, so next phase. We need to target Minmus. Zoom way out. Let's target Minmus. Set as target. You can see we are not in the exact same plane. And might as well use some of the fuel on our launch stage to do this maneuver. So let's look at where we're at. We are, let's see, currently, where am I? Here we are. We're right here. We're coming up on the ascending node first, so we're going to go anti-normal, which means down. It's kind of cool to watch. Aim ourselves down along that orbital plane. These are like some of the best ship positions for your stations too, because they'll rotate, but they rotate on axis around, so they stay oriented more or less. Alright, I'm going to go to our map view and warp way over here. Actually, before I do that, let me take this guy and crank it down a bit. This is a pretty powerful thruster. I don't really need that at this moment. And then let's warp over here. Okay, now we're just going to burn. Watch the ascending node decrease in angle. If we burn too much, we'll chase it away. Which right now I need to burn a little more. Chase it. Maybe I should have left a little more throttle, but it's working okay. And if it gets too far away, we can kill our thrust and then wait to catch up with it. Just kind of keep warping forward time and doing little micro burns until you get it where you want it. Almost there. Okay. Now we are nicely aligned. Awesome. So next thing we can do too while we're here is blast off our cupola. Get rid of that thing. Let me set my orientation back to prograde, and I'm going to switch my view to free. So we're looking at our ship sideways. Let's transfer some fuel. Easiest way to do this on something like this is to come up here and turn on the tanks you want to see. And then here's the tanks that I want to fill, so I'm going to pin those. And then I'm going to turn this setting off. Now I'm going to right click on one of these and then just hover over that again, and I can say out and fill these all at the same time. Fast forward. Click on this one, same thing. Out. Okay, and we got one more here. Dump it. Looks like this ship is full, and that's good. I need a little bit to slow this one down, and that's just about perfect. So last thing we'll do, we'll unpin these, and let's do the monopropellant. I want to transfer from this big tank to all of these. There's a whole bunch of these, like I think like 6 of them or something, which I think might be overkill, but better to have a little bit too much fuel than not enough. So out, fast forward. Okay, so lander is topped off, and we are ready for the next stage, which is to deploy and then send this guy on its way. Okay, so let's decouple. I am currently aimed, might as well orient some stuff too, just because. Let's get it lined up and pray everything goes right. Spacebar. Let's see if we get a clean decouple. Looks like we did. Let me fast forward a little bit, let these guys drift. Perfect. Okay, so let's see where's the moon right now. You know what? The moon's kind of in our way. So let's just leave this guy. Let's go ahead and deploy our. Oh, that's not good. It's clipping through our gas tank, but good thing they don't care. I'll have to move that on a future build. Got my solar panels, got my Comutron. This thing should stay alive. Kerbals will be happy. Let's get the lander. I'm gonna use the brackets to toggle to the next closest spacecraft. And let's crank our thruster back up. Let's tell this to go retrograde orbit. I'm going to be careful because if this is aimed at that, we like decide to blast off or something, we can actually send this thing kind of spinning away. So if we're not sure if that's going to happen or not, you can always just accelerate time a little bit and just let things drift. And they'll eventually just put some distance between themselves. Okay, so all we really want to do is watch our periaps, and we're going to bring that down into like the below 50 range. This is a pretty big craft, so if I bring it in shallow, it'll take a little bit less brute force. I've brought it in steep before and it seems to work, but the right way is not to do that. So I'm going to start decelerating until we bring it somewhere, 45, that'll work. And there's our deployer moving away from it. Go ahead and orient my ship. And then let's just fast forward until we hit 70,000. Here it comes. Boom. All right. Let everything fix itself. Let's get our air brakes open. And then let's fast forward again and let's bring this thing home. Should start seeing some heat in about 3 seconds or so. Oh, maybe not. I guess we're not dropping as fast as I thought we were going to. There we go. Now we got some heat. I brought it in pretty shallow, so we should be able to leave it in full accel mode until it's time to pop shoots. Otherwise, descent takes a while. So far, she seems pretty stable. But we'll see what happens once the air gets a little bit thicker. Sometimes you might need to toggle your brakes to cool them down. You know, you can do like a temporary close and open to pull some heat off them. Just remember, you might lose stability when you do something like that. I'm going to slow physics down a little bit, just so nothing cataclysmic happens until we get through the thickest part of the burn here. I do still have a little fuel, so I'm going to dump that in decel mode too, just to kind of help. That'll also help us lose some weight. Okay, fuel's gone. That actually kind of helps stabilize us a little bit too. And once we get down here, we're going to start spinning, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. The chutes will help us out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and accelerate time a little bit. Like I said, a nice shallow burn. We should see, yeah, we're dropping plenty fast. Accelerate time even more. Try to avoid the fastest once you're in the turbulent zone. And then once you get out of it, you can accelerate again. So basically what we want to do is wait for our speed to cool down enough we can get our drogue chutes out. And like I said, if you're spinning, it's okay. You can try and work to cancel the spin with your torque if you want to, but it doesn't really matter because once the chute's open, it'll kind of correct that. Now the nice thing is we're coming down in water, so we don't have to wonder our height. We're coming down at 0 as 0 versus in the mountains, you got to wonder about that. I'm going to go ahead and pop all chutes and then accel time all the way down. Well, maybe not quite that much. It looks like it's going to come apart. And we'll slow down before the chutes open so we don't get a mega jolt. Try and slow some of the twist down a little bit. There we go. Chute open. Let's get the main chutes and then full speed down. Alright, 800 feet, 6 meters per second. We're going to get a nice splash down. We just have to wait for it. Alright, let's kill the physics. Come in for a nice natural landing. There we go. Let's recover our vessel. Okay, so it looks like that got us 54 thou back. Not too shabby. Alright, so here we are. The launch stage is safely landed and recovered. Gone to the space station and grabbed hold of this. Yeah, we've got some glitchy manufacturing. That's my bad. I need to push this out to Minmus. So let's go into this mode, map mode. Let's find Minmus. Let's decide where we're going to burn. Moon is probably going to F with me. Let's see if we can get a path out without the moon interfering. So right now I've got a moon interference. Let's see if we can get around. Yeah, see, it's really throwing the trajectory of my path. Maybe right here. Let's see what happens if I push further at this point. Do we get an intercept? We do, but let's see. Periaps says I'm going the right direction. Yeah, and that's the direction. If I want to refuel, I need to be coming in this way. So let's see if we can make that maneuver work. Let's lock it in. 52-second burn in 9 minutes. Let's go to maneuver node. It's a pretty long burn, so we should be able to watch it from here. And I'll fast forward time a little bit. Alright, coming in on our node, stop the time warp, let everything kind of settle out. These aren't active, so with my throttle down, I'm going to hit spacebar to activate them. Now when I hit Z, I'll get full throttle. I need to burn at 26 seconds. And burning. And then just watch the view. Once we get a little closer to the end, I'll look at the map and I'll watch the intercept manually. Alright, so let me cut it off and just give it a little more thrust. Let's verify that we're getting... Yep, we've got an intercept. Looks like we've hit our mark. And now in real time, we're just kind of slowly floating away. If I speed time up, we'll just get to watch ourselves leave the planet. Off we go. Pretty fucking awesome. There's the moon. Hopefully it doesn't F with us. You can see Minmus, it's like a little speck right there. Currently we're only right there. You know, it seems like we've already traveled a long ways, but not really. There's the moon. Onward. Alright. I'm gonna kill the warp, and I'm gonna do this part manually. I'm gonna come in right here, warp into this point. I can actually watch this. Be a lot faster, but more controlled. There's the moon whipping around Kerbin, and we should have an intercept. There it is. There's Minmus. Okay, so back to map mode. What I have to do is we need to decelerate. You don't really need a maneuver for this. Basically, you just need to decelerate at the periapsis. Oops, too much. And you'll see we get a deceleration loop. We got like an hour out. Let me see. If I set Minmus station as my target. I was hoping that maybe I would get a better intercept, but I don't really. We're off a little bit there. I just have to do it manually. So I'm gonna bring it in. Excuse me. I'm gonna bring it in shy of the station. So just a normal decel. The station is about 30 thou, so I'm gonna bring it above that. Not much, like just enough. 35. Wow, that's actually almost a decent intercept line. Okay, and it puts this cross point pretty close to a descending node. I could try and tip the orbit at this point too and make this more of a complex burn with multi-directions, but for right now we'll just do it in a couple stages. So because I got way more than enough fuel, and you won't have all the flight nodes and stuff. So we've got 10-second burn, hour out. Let's move to maneuver. And then fast forward some time. Okay. Gotta be careful not to miss your nodes too, because this one would loop me out into space if I missed it. So 10-second burn, might as well watch it here. I'm gonna burn at 5+. Okay. Let's see where we're at. A little bit far, so I'm gonna do a little more decel by going orbit retrograde. And I just want to stay on the outside of this yellow edge. I've got a lot of thrust, so I gotta be careful with this. I'm actually gonna back these guys down. Let's set them at like 40. Come on, 40. There we go. 40. 40. So 40, 40, 40. Make sure they're nice and even. I have a little more control of this now. There we go. Perfect. Okay. The reason I'm bringing it down outside or inside, I'll make the adjustment if I need to, is we need to either wait for or catch up to the station. Right now, my angle is all weird. However, I've got an ascending node right here that's going to allow me to adjust for that. So I'm going to go to my anti-normal direction. Alright, ship adjustment position made. We're way out in space, so this adjustment is going to be pretty easy. There's not a lot of gravity on us at the moment. So I'm going to move, oh, it's jumping around so bad. I'm going to move to a day ahead of where we are. Let's see if I can get my view focused back on the funky angle right now. speed up time a little bit and get closer to this. Okay, so anti-normal orbit, we're locked in. Let's get that visible, right click, and let's burn. Okay, I'm gonna warp forward a little bit further. I'm being really delicate with the burn at this point because like I said, there's a ton of leverage. The other thing I can do is use my monopropellant. And since I'm pointed the direction I need to burn, I could accelerate forward using monopropellant, which works good too. Which maybe I'll do that. So let's get closer to this ascending node. It's like a lot of fast forward, just we got a lot of distance in orbit still. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel that. I'll hit R, turn on my monopropellant, and tap H to burn forward, and that gives me a little bit more control. There we go. Okay. And then R so I don't mess that up. Now we've actually leveled out with our station. Cool. So at this point, I can play around with, let's see where my periapsis is right there. If I do some decel right here, we might get an interesting intercept just by luck. Let's get it as close as we can to the yellow line. All right. So you can see, nope, don't get a good intercept, and that's fine. So let me just push it just outside the yellow line. And we'll do this as our next burn. And this will at least put us into a potential intercept loop, even if we just wait. 6-second burn, 5 hours. Let's go ahead and warp time. There we go. Should be able to watch ourselves approach Minmus. Approaching our burn time. Want to make sure we stop short a little bit to allow our ship time to adjust position and so forth. There we go. What's up, beautiful Minmus? Nice icy lakes. Yeah, I probably have enough fuel to land it, but might as well dock just for fun. Let's accelerate time a little bit more. Okay. Got a 3-second burn, plus minus. Burning in 17. Burn. Alright, let's hit map mode and see where we're at. We're a little bit far out. Let's see, I've got 30, 34. I could burn a tiny bit more. Pretty concentric. Okay, so we at least have orbit at this point. That's a great start. Let me zoom out a little bit. You can see some kind of probe in the distance. I've got a station that I need to try to dock with if I want to refuel. You know, it's like I said, we could try not refueling and make it all the way back. We could try landing, taking off, and then refueling. Right now, I came in at a pretty decent angle that it makes sense just to try and refuel while we're out here, because then we'll guaranteed have enough fuel. The problem is we're right there. Science deploy launcher. And my station is right here, and that's just unfortunate timing. It's more or less on the other side of the moon. However, it's catching up to us. And so what we can do is basically just fast forward time until it gets closer, and then once it gets on past where it's close, we can start to decel and try and catch it. So that's more or less the next phase, is try and catch that thing and dock to it if we can. Okay, so next phase is that we dock our lander and get some fuel in it. So I'm gonna pull our periapsis and our apoapsis down so they're just barely over. What are these at? 31, 30. Okay, so just barely over 30. And if we get them too close, then the intercept takes forever. But that's what fast forward's for. So I'll get them pretty close, then I'll just fast forward until we get a nice clean intercept. Okay, same kind of thing here. Go ahead and burn retrograde, slow down, bring this guy just down above 30. Okay, so now it's just a waiting game until the station catches us since it's underneath. So we're just going to fast forward time. Let's see, let's watch our separation distance. We're going to have to fast forward a lot. Let me grab the center of this so it doesn't go crazy. And zoom, 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 zoom. We're seeing it drop. Further the gap between the orbits, the faster it drops, but then it's also harder to time. Alright, let me slow down a little bit. Alright, 15, 10, let's go one more. Okay, so basically on our next pass we might actually miss it. So we're going to need a slowdown maneuver somewhere. Let me see, put a little space between these so we can see our intercept. Oh, I went really fast. Let's try that again. It is 5, 7. Where do we want to slow down at? I think I want to slow down. Oops, I lost that. Let's see, 5, 8, 7. Let's try right here again. Just want to play around with the slowdown until we find a spot where we get a nice intercept. How far are we on? Let me kill this node for a second. How far are we away now? 6. I think I actually need to complete one more lap. Let's warp around once more. There we go. Okay, so right, let's see, right about, let's see where we get the most effect. Maybe right here. Let's see if I slow down a little more. Oop. Very jumpy. There we go. Drag it around. I want to try and get it as close as I can. Got 1 kilometer, 0.9. Point 0.8. 1. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So let's aim maneuver. What do we got? 1 hour away. Let's warp. Again, this is like the tiniest little adjustment. So what I'm going to do is get really close in time and then use my RC thruster and just puff a little tiny bit. Coming up on the burn. Alright, here we go. And our intercept is 0.8. Perfect. Okay, so now what we need to do is get to this point and then decelerate to target. So target, retrograde. Can we see our target? There it is. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward time a little bit until we get closer to a distance of 0.8. There's a 1. There's 0.9. Let's slow down time a little bit. Okay, so like basically any time now we can just stop our velocity, which is very minimal. So tiny little thrust here. Okay, so now what we do is aim at the target. Gonna go to locked view, V, locked. I can also switch to the station and let's set it to normal. So it faces upright. Let's see, where's my ship at? It's right there. And it'd be nice to rotate it so these docking ports are facing out. So let me start rotating it. Guess I should have rotated the other way, but too late now. Okay, go station, go. Almost there. And that'll just make my docking maneuver way easier to align. I'll have less offset to try to fly. Okay, stop this momentum if I can. Too much. Good enough. Okay, so back to our ship. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to move in on that. So I'm going to thrust forward on target, so towards target, and a little bit of thrust, get a little bit of forward momentum. A couple meters per second is probably good. Kill that. Now I can use RCS to kind of decide where my thrust is. I'm going to aim a little low because I actually want to hit the docking port, which is not the very top, which we can retarget here in a second. Let me fast forward. All right, and then you'll notice that your vector kind of gets off. So if you use your RCS, you can sort of thrust back to it. And then we'll move in again, a little bit closer. then somewhere, once we get to like 150 or whatever, I should be able to target one of these ports, which is what we want to actually dock to. Okay. Let's see if I can target one yet. Come on, you little docking port, you. Nope, can't yet. Let me go correct my angle a little bit. Rotation looks pretty level. Let's see if I can grab it yet. There we go. Set as target. That's going to reorient my aim point. And now what we really want to launch for is, if I were to look at this from the top, like how straight are we coming in? You can see that the angle is kind of running that way. So if I thrust right and keep the nose aimed, as we move forward, we should actually kind of straighten out to target. The other thing we want to watch out for is this angle. So right now I'm a little bit too high, so I'm going to thrust down a little bit. I'm also still moving forward pretty fast, so I'm going to have to negate that here in a second. So right now I'm going to RCS and kick into N. That'll slow me down. Alright, way less forward momentum. Let's check my overall height. Doesn't look too bad. Let me negate the height for now. And let's check our rotation angle. Let me shift the camera a little bit. Still a little bit off, but we've almost got it corrected. So I'm going to start slowing down how much it's offsetting. So we have less momentum to try and stop. Alright, so far pretty good. Let's get this pretty much stopped. Let's do one more check on our height. I think we might still be a little bit high. We just kick the vector down a tiny bit. And we're just gonna babysit on the way in. Obviously I take pride in trying to keep stuff docked straight if possible. Looks like I need a little bit more right vector still. Let's go ahead and... Oh, what happened? There we go. Let's bring that up. Start straightening it out. Okay. Pretty good. I'm going to slow it down a little bit. We don't want to dock too hard, especially if we're not perfectly aligned. Let's do one last check. Let's close our radio so I don't destroy it. And let's really dial it in. And if we're lucky, we'll get a clean dock on our first try. Well, so far it looks pretty good. I'm going to kill the RCS right before we touch, so we don't get any weird pushes of monopropellant. Let's see what we get. Do we get a clean dock? Ah, beautiful. That's how you do it. That is excellent. Okay, so now we get to refuel. Only this time we have stuff all over the place that could be refueled, so I'm going to carefully open up the things I want to refuel and make sure you pin them so they don't disappear on you. Alright, so those are my liquid and oxidizer. And I'm going to say out, out, fast forward time, let's fill up our tanks. Okay, so as far as monopropellant, yeah, I still got way too much monopropellant, so I'm not going to worry about that. So all I'm going to do now is just unpin these. And we're ready to, there might be something you wanted to do at your station. Like I could check here, I might have science that needs transmitted. I do. Let's go ahead and transmit some science, get some points for that. Tells you up here what's going on. Fast forward my transmute time. Okay, cool. So we just made some science points. We've refueled. We are, ready to chillax in space for days if we want to and eat the fine dining of the food synthesizers, or we can decide we want to get off this rock and go land. Okay, so let's break this thing apart. Let's get it on the ground. Let's accomplish our mission. Zoom in right here. And if I can get it, there we go. Let's do an undock. I'm going to do a save really quick too, just in case I break something. Okay. I'm going to turn my RCS on and just press N. Oh, not what I wanted to happen. I thought I had my ship selected. I had my station selected. Let's move my ship instead. Okay, leave my station alone. Backing away. If you're wondering what all this craziness is, this is like a mega lander that I drop to get fuel, and it can keep itself cool and make generate ore and gas and fuel and all kinds of stuff. That's how I refuel my stations. These are just little science centers. This is like a rescue pod. Can do some science or rescue people. We're just visiting the Kerbals. Anything that's lit up usually means I've got somebody sleeping in it. Okay, so we are away. Let's get to map mode. Basically, we want to just drop altitude. If we were to go orbit retrograde right now, that would point us this direction. Okay, if I start slowing down, we're going to move away from this. I'm just going to cycle time a little bit just to get a little distance between us and the station, just so there's no chance that we crash into it. Then I'm just going to start decelling against orbit retrograde, watching my periapsis, and I'm going to bring it down pretty low because we're going to land this thing. So I'm going to bring it down on Minmus. You can bring it down really low if you want to, and I've got a ton of thrust, so I'll bring it down maybe to 10 or 11. You could probably even bring it down lower than that, but don't really need to. So something like that. I'll put a maneuver here so we can see how much time we've got. 28 minutes. See you later, station. Let's go ahead and get our antenna and our solar panels opened, so we're charging things back up. I've actually got these fuel cells. Where are they? Right here. Those little things. They actually put out some electricity too, but just in case. Um, we got 28 minutes. Then I want to bring the orbit down on the other side, but might as well enjoy the ride as we come in. I'm going to switch over to free view so it looks like we're flying over the surface. Okay, so one thing you want to be careful of is there are some mountain ranges. You want to make sure you don't have any points where you're like dipping through those. I'm going to come pretty close. When we get to this point, we want to decel until we get our apoapsis to about the same height, give or take. Make sure we're in orbit retrograde, because technically we're not surface speed yet. It's just a really low orbit. Warp forward. A little bit more. Okay, so somewhere right in this region, we want to start burning to close our apoapsis. And approximately the same height. Good enough. Okay, so we're in super low orbit now. And I need to deploy some science stuff, which means ideally we find someplace flat. Looks like right here there's a lake. That would be nice to land on. Let's put in a maneuver right here to slow down. And we'll just put down on the lake. We'll have to double check this because obviously this is rotating. So when we get closer, we'll see if that's still a good point. But we could warp to at least here and travel around. Awesome, love it. Okay, so notice that our maneuver node, because of the moon's rotation, it's not in a good spot. So let's shift it, warp forward a little bit more. Okay, so pretty good. I'm gonna aim more or less for the center. Let's get some preparations for landing. So one thing I'm gonna do is roll over so that I am the direction that makes sense so that when I go to take off, I can take off the right direction. So I'm going to put the dirt on the left, the sky on the right, like so. Alright, the other thing I'm going to do is get my gear group down. And hit 0, get my landing gear lights turned on, which I've set up that way. You'd have to set yours up that way too if you want that. But more or less we're ready to land, so I'm going to get out of that view, and when we're ready, burn and watch here. Want to make sure we don't get too much 0 speed. We don't want to go up. Like I said earlier, this is really, really low gravity moon. Alright, more or less good enough. Maneuver complete. We are now going to switch to surface mode. There's our new surface retrograde. This speed we want to watch. That's our collision to target speed. More or less our 0 point, since it's a lake. It's like the water. That's actually true height, which is nice. If you try to land on these plateaus, you have to be careful because the altitude will trick you. Now we just begin our descent downward towards the ground and try and do our best not to blow up. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. Alright, let's let it readjust. Okay. Where are we at? 6,000 feet. I'm gonna hit full thrust for just a second, see how fast I negate this. Because I have 40% thrust right now, so not crazy fast. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of that speed out. And then fall. Okay. Our ground lights help us know where the ground's coming up at, especially when it's dark. That's why I advise building them in. Cut some speed out. If we do this right, we should come down like a feather. A little bit further. Okay. Now we're in real time. Can't do anything about it because we're in land mode. So negate some speed. When you got sunlight, you can look for your shadow, which is really nice. Here, I'm just going to have to wait until I see my ground lights light up the turf, which should be pretty soon. But we got lots of fuel, so not really worried about it. We just want to make sure we don't hit the ground too hard. Down we go. All right, below a kilometer. There we go, ground lights. So now I'm gonna maintain a pretty consistent decel rate. You don't want to go too slow or it gets unstable. I also want to make sure I've got real good control of how quick we're dropping this last little bit. And when I get to 0, I more or less want to try and put it down with as much care as possible. The very, very lightweight moon, you bounce pretty easy. Coming in. Okay. There we go. And I don't know why my lights are freaking out so much. Let's kill our ground lights. There we go. Okay. So we had a really nice landing. And now it's time to EVA, deploy my scientists and get some stuff on the ground. All right, let's get this done. Nice dismount. Let's see, let's swap. Too heavy. All right, here we go. Okay, so that was fun. Let's do a little fast forwarding. Let's make sure we get our mission accomplished for our distributes. There's one of them. There we go. Let's see. Why isn't that one green yet? Maybe it needs to send. Let's warp until we get sunlight again. There it goes. Okay. Mission accomplished. Okay, so now we are at mission to return the Kerbals safely home. Let's do it. I don't really need RCS. We don't really need a lot of launch velocity, so I'm just going to gently take off. Close my landing gear up. Start pitching down my axis a little bit. So see this planet later. Now remember, we've got really low grav, so we can pitch pretty early if we want to, as long as we're watching our curve and we're not getting into any collision. I don't need to be very high. This is probably already plenty high enough. Go ahead and decide what our next burn will look like, but just add in some prograde until we get roughly same-ish altitude, and then we'll do an escape burn here in a second. Alright. Now we're just leaving the surface. Fast forward time. Basically just doing one really big jump right now, and if we didn't do another burn, we'd crash again somewhere. Almost there. Okay, so let's watch it from here. Four seconds on each side. Burning. Good enough. Very nice. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and crank my thrusters back up. I don't need them for the exit burn, but we're gonna be getting into Kerbin, and I'm gonna need them for the deceleration burn, so I might as well do it now so I don't forget. Awesome. So now we gotta get our exit burn. Let's do that next. Let's find Kerbin over there. Basically, we want to exit somewhere on this side by pushing back away from the moon. What's going on here? Not enough yet? There it goes. Okay, once we push in far enough, we'll see an ellipse that we're going to grab. I'm going to push in a little harder just to make sure we really get it. Looks like we are. "32, 31, 30. Right there is pretty good. Okay, awesome. Let's get in position, 12 minutes. Very, very light burn, 3 seconds. All right. We're gonna come around one more time. Hola Mountains. Okay, approaching our burn. Let it cycle in. Burning in 10. And with any luck, there it is. Okay, so there's our new orbit around Kerbin. And so we have successfully left Minmus. At this point, we can just kind of watch ourselves go. So cool. See the moon, see Kerbin. Alright, so now you can see here we are. We are in a new orbit. We've got a lot of distance from us to Earth. If I decel too much right now, I could accidentally grab Minmus again. So I'm going to fast forward time, put a little bit distance between me and Minmus. Okay, and then over here, let's put in a decel to bring us down to about 100 thou. Maybe focus on Kerbin if I can. There we go. And decel to about 100,000 over Kerbin. Doesn't really have to be perfect, but somewhere in that range. Okay. 14-second burn. I think we can handle that. It is 42 days out. These guys are in space for a minute. Yeah, that's a long time. So I feel for them. They're going to be on this cruise for a while. Thankfully, we can speed up time. Let's just click here and warp forward. I think I actually accidentally drug it around one too many times. So I'm just going to do it here. I'm just going to do a retrograde burn from where we are and hope this works out. Closing very fast. And where am I at? Can't tell. 133. Alright, good enough. Looks like if I stay on this, I'll actually loop back around. I could catch the moon if I wanted to. I could slingshot Kerbin and catch the moon. We'll save that for another day. What I need to do now is get to this point and then do another big deceleration burn so that I catch the planet And then let's watch this point here. Let's bring it in to about 100,000 too. Good enough for government work. Maneuver node in 5 days. Man, these guys have been out there for a while. It's only a 40-second burn, so I'm not going to warp too close to it. Let's do a warp to 5 days, 3 hours. Let's do it to like there. Whoa, that's freaking me out. It's too fast. Zoom. Here we come. Okay. Still got a couple minutes. That's good. Let's just double check that everything is where it needs to be. We are on maneuver. Still got a lot of orbit speed. We need to decel quite a bit. We need about 20 seconds on each side. 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Let's warp to about here. Stop. Okay. Still on maneuver. Burn in about 10 seconds. Preparing to burn. Burning. Almost there. Good enough. Okay, so we're at least now home-ish. We're stuck in orbit here. Next phase is to get this thing out of orbit, back on the ground, bring our Kerbals. They seem pretty happy, but they're not going to be if they don't land with the skin on their bones, so that's our next phase. Okay, so last thing we really need to do is bring our ship home. And we can kind of do that at any point we want to. We just need to decelerate into the atmosphere. We'll kick off some stages that we don't need, and hopefully we'll land on our feet. So let's see what we got. I'm gonna go orbit retrograde. I have plenty of electricity, I think, at this point, so I'm gonna close up shop. Make sure we don't burn those off our ship. And I am gonna watch as I burn. We're gonna push our periapsis down into the below 50 mark. 40, 45. This ship's pretty light, so we should be okay. Good enough. I'll leave it kind of high so we get a decent burn time. Alright, so regardless, this thing's going down. We're gonna break below 70. We're gonna hit atmosphere, and even though it looks like it's gonna come back out, it's not gonna happen. It's gonna burn and hit the planet once it hits the air level. So even though we've got fuel here, I don't really want it. I want to kick it free, and I just want to come back with this stage. So at this point, we're just going to let this guy loose and pray that the rest of our systems work properly. So let's try it out. And looks like we got a really nice strong decouple. That is space junk. And it's got its own trajectory down. It'll burn up in the atmosphere and blow up at some point. We are only worried about us. Let's kind of correct our route a little bit. I'm going to go to Freeview. Seems to make more sense to my brain coming in at this angle for some reason. I mean, alright, all we've got left is pop drogue chutes, pop reel chutes, and land. This is a decoupler that I'm not intending to use, but it's built into this capsule, so I want to make sure I don't hit the spacebar too many times. And the nice thing is the fuel stages that we originally launched were burned up. This will burn up. Our launch stage was landed, so we didn't leave any debris overall if we can pull this off. So I'm going to accelerate time. Hit about 70 thou. Time will stop again. Boop. Okay. Let's get it. Give it a second to write. Nice. Okay, and then let's just speed time up, and we'll go through our descent through the atmosphere. One of my favorite parts. I've got a nice ablator on this setup. It's pretty heavy. This should stay that direction, but we'll find out, I guess. Probably gonna land in the dark. You can see our periapsis descending rapidly. Looks like maybe we'll actually land on the sunny side. Nah, we're gonna land in the dark. All good. Don't have any lights on this though. Alright, we are full speed acceleration 4 times. Hitting the burn zone. Ablator, you can always check it. You can right click on it, it'll tell you how much of it's burned up, but we should have more than enough ablator. Alright, that was a very successful re-entry. Nothing overheated, nothing tumbled. Let's just keep dropping velocity till our drogue chutes look like they're good. Pop drogue chutes. I can't see the ground. The downside of that, let me stop time for a second. Let's see, where are we? As best I can tell, we're over water, but it's really hard to tell, so I'm going to pop all my chutes early and just make sure that they open before we hit the ground. I think we're over water though. And if we are, we won't hit until this is at 0, so yeah, I can see the water now. Awesome, we're safe. And we're pretty much guaranteed a flawless landing at this point. I've got way overkill the number of chutes on this. Yeah, 4.7 meters per second. It's almost like we're not moving, but we are. Coming down 300 meters. 200 meters. Getting rid of time travel here in just a second. We'll come in for a natural splashdown. Woohoo! All the Kerbals, they should be cheering. They're all alive. They should be celebrating. They didn't die, but they're not cheering. Let's recover this vessel. Okay, we make it back alive, and we got some science to report. We got some money back from our parts. We gained some, no reputation, because I've landed there before. No big deal. But we won our contract, so we made some money. And you can see down here that we've got right here, complete contracts. Dun 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 dun. Awesome. I'm gonna clear those out. Boom. There you go. Nope, still can't. Let me see if I can shift my view and grab it. want to. No, it doesn't want to. So let me get my camera back to locked. Oh no, no, no. I'm gonna blow the cupola off. We don't need it anymore. And I'm gonna aim prograde just so we kind of level everything out. Might as well rotate. Get this thing somewhat oriented to a direction that makes sense to the camera. Let's get some lights on. And let's blow this thing off. Uh-oh. Something horrible happened. No.